The day they fired Daniel Cole, they didn't just take his job, they lit a fuse. The conference room was packed. Executives in pressed suits lined the polished oak table, while assistants lingered by the walls with notepads ready. The air was heavy, the kind of heavy that made your stomach knot without knowing why. Daniel Cole, head of operations at Hargrove and Cole Consulting, sat midway down the table, pen in hand, pretending to take notes while his mind churned. Something was wrong. At the head of the table, Victor Hargrove, his business partner and supposed friend, adjusted his tie with deliberate slowness. On his right, Olivia Mason, the sleek, calculating head of PR, tapped her manicured nails against a manila folder. Victor's voice cut through the murmurs. "Daniel, why don't you stand up?" Daniel frowned. "Why?" Victor smiled. That politician smile Daniel had learned to distrust. "Because the board has unanimously decided that your services are no longer required at this firm." The room froze. Someone's pen clattered to the floor. Daniel blinked. "Excuse me?" Olivia rose, handing out copies of the folder like a dealer with a deck of cards. "As you'll see in the documents, this is a formal termination, effective immediately. Your personal belongings will be couriered to you." Daniel's chest tightened. "Termination? On what grounds?" Victor's tone was silk over steel. "Mismanagement of funds. Poor leadership. The kind of negligence this company cannot afford." Gasps whispered around the table. Daniel's jaw clenched. "That's a lie." Victor leaned forward, his voice carrying just enough to be heard by everyone present, and by the HR director filming discreetly on her phone. "No, Daniel. It's the truth, and everyone in this room knows it." The humiliation hit like a punch to the gut. Faces avoided his. Some smirked. Others looked away. Victor's final blow was delivered with calculated cruelty. "Security will escort you out." The guards weren't rough, but the message was clear: you're nothing here anymore. Daniel's steps echoed down the hallway he'd walked for years. The hallway where interns once stopped him for advice, where executives had once nodded in respect. Now doors were half shut. Whispers leaked through glass partitions. As the elevator doors slid shut, Daniel caught his reflection, pale, tight-lipped, defeated. He didn't cry. Not yet. The days that followed were a blur. Headlines popped up on industry sites. Cole removed from Hargrove and Cole amid allegations. His inbox flooded with pitying messages disguised as concern. Victor's PR machine worked fast, painting Daniel as reckless, irresponsible, a man who had squandered investor trust. His savings were fine, but his reputation poisoned. Calls went unanswered. Old friends vanished. One night, sitting in his dim apartment with a whiskey glass sweating on the table, Daniel replayed the moment. Victor's smirk, Olivia's satisfaction, the eyes of the board. They hadn't just fired him. They'd buried him. And in that moment, Daniel decided, if they wanted war, they would get one. Reed, his oldest friend and a cybersecurity expert, listened quietly as Daniel laid it out over coffee. "I'm not looking for an apology," Daniel said. "I'm not even looking to get my job back. I'm going to burn the ground they stand on." Reed raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly?" Daniel slid a USB stick across the table. "Because I know where the bodies are buried." Months earlier, Daniel had stumbled across irregularities in the company's overseas accounts. Offshore transfers, shell corporations, kickbacks hidden under vague consulting fees. He had started documenting them, thinking he might one day need leverage. Now he did. The plan was slow burn. While Reed dug deeper, Daniel reconnected with old contacts, investors Victor had wronged, journalists hungry for a scandal, and one particularly ruthless hedge fund CEO who owed Daniel a favor. He let the story build in whispers, never showing his full hand. The hook was baited at the annual Hargrove and Cole Investor Gala, a black-tie affair Victor adored. Daniel made sure he'd be there, not as an invited guest, but as a +1 to a major investor who was more than happy to stir the pot. Victor spotted him from across the ballroom, nearly spilling his champagne. What the hell is he doing here? Daniel just smiled. Midway through Victor's speech about integrity and sustainable growth, the lights dimmed. Not part of the plan, but a perfect accident. The giant projection screen behind him flickered. And then the numbers appeared. Bank statements, transaction logs, wire transfers to fake accounts, a detailed, time-stamped trail of fraud so clean it could have been an exhibit in court. Murmurs erupted. Phones rose to take pictures. Olivia's face drained of color. Daniel was standing dead center in the crowd, arms crossed, watching Victor stumble. The room dissolved into chaos. Investors shouted over each other. Journalists pushed forward. Victor, sweating, tried to continue. This is fake. It's... Daniel stepped forward just enough for the cameras to catch him. No, Victor. It's exactly what it looks like. Gasps, flashes, the end. Without another word, Daniel turned his back and walked out. The ultimate insult. Behind him, Olivia was swarmed with questions. Victor froze under the spotlight, looking smaller than he ever had. The destruction was instant, irreversible. 2 weeks later, the headlines hadn't stopped. Hargrove and Cole under investigation for fraud. Victor Hargrove resigns in disgrace. Daniel Cole's new venture secures record funding. Olivia vanished from the industry. Victor faced possible charges. Daniel didn't need to gloat. The industry was doing it for him. In his new office overlooking the city skyline, Reed leaned back with a grin. You did it. Daniel sipped his coffee. No, I ended it. Phone in hand, he answered the next investor call with smooth confidence. Daniel Cole, let's talk about the future. He hung up, turned to the window, and smiled, the same smile he'd given Victor the day he was fired, full circle.